Right, what happened happened. They are not here for revenge, and it's a big game tonight. It's understandable that Rodri, maybe has his emotions flying around. You would expect such in a game of this magnitude, and of course, but to dissect all of those emotions and the expectations leading up to this game, I do have Gboyega joining me from Abuja this evening. Gbenga, good evening. Welcome to the show.
Good evening, Wale. It's always beautiful to be here. Hope you can hear me clearly.
Yes, I can. Fantastic to have you. Although we can't see you, but I'm sure that we're going to try to sort that out in a bit. But quickly, let's start off from where Guardiola, was speaking yesterday, saying, look, first it was Rodri who was saying, he would like the chance to revenge what Real did last season, because City clearly the better side over the course of maybe 170 minutes, 160 minutes or thereabout. In a 10-15 minute spell, Real Madrid were the better side and took the game away from City. This time around, Rodri says we want to try to revenge, but Pep says no, we're not here to revenge. Last year we wanted to win, we didn't win. Now we just want to win. We don't care about revenge. But it has to be playing in the minds of some of these players that, look, these guys knocked us out last year even though we were better than them. We have to show them that we're better than them now. That has to play in the mind of some of the players, right?
Of course, it even has to be on the mind of the coach himself. I mean, we all talk about Manchester City as a club, as a football club that should be emulated. And we know that to win trophies these days is beyond just what you do from the training ground or on the drawing board. Some people say luck is part of it. Some people say there are moments in games that you have to take your chances. I mean, we can reflect just back at the quarterfinals, Manchester City against Bayern Munich. We expected fireworks, but it was just one team that was taking their chances, and that was Man City. So probably that is what will come to play in the semi-final, where it is left to be seen.
All right, left to be seen. But quickly, let's still stick with Manchester City. This is the third semi-final in a row, right? Before Pep came, they had just one semi-final in their history. Of course, 2 years ago, got to the final, lost to Chelsea under Thomas Tuchel. In a game that, some still feel maybe City edged it a little bit in terms of performance. Last year also, they seemed almost unlucky against Real Madrid. Like Pep said, again, yesterday in the press conference, that as a team, you just have to make sure that you keep getting in these positions. You won't win it every year, but that for them that they haven't won it before, do you agree that the more they keep getting into these positions, the higher the likelihood that their first Champions League title is just around the corner?
So the edge Real Madrid have over Man City, first of all, they are defending champions coming into this game. Second of all, they've won the most. They are going for their 15th title. Man City are going for their first. Right? So there are a lot of contracts when you look at both teams. But it somehow negates the natural order of things, because if you look at it, Man City have only lost 3 times in the year 2023. The entire year. You are in May. They lost to Manchester United, I think. They lost to Tottenham Hotspur. And I think they lost to Southampton in the EFL. Just 3 games. Real Madrid have lost those 3 games in the last 10. So if you talk about form, Man City are better form. Man City are playing good football. Man City are dominating. But will they do that against Madrid, who know how to win cup games? In fact, who know how to win the Champions League? That is what we are watching.
All right. Still sticking with Manchester City. Do you agree that, so after the first half of the season, there were talks about maybe Erling Haaland is holding them back. He has, Pep is having to, chop and change how his team used to play. Of course, last couple of seasons with a false 9. Before then with Aguero and Gabriel Jesus, who are players who like to move the ball around, come outside the box. So there were question marks about the impact of Haaland. But I think those question marks have been erased. A player with 51 goals, I don't think should be having question marks like that. Do you not agree that maybe this might be the mixing of ingredients that Manchester City need? Because a lot of people feel like, some of the chances that they missed against Real last season, I mean, in the first leg, they could have put Real to the sword 5, 6, 7 goals, right? With Haaland, there's a higher chance. Just how important is Haaland going to be in this fixture? I think they brought him in to win the Champions League. And, I mean, if he's going to do it, then these are the type of games he has to do it. He did it against Bayern Munich. How important do you think he's going to be in this tie?
He's already doing it. Like you said, he raised a lot of doubts coming into this game, not just for Haaland, but for Manchester City as a team. It was impressive to see that while Manchester City were second place in the English Premier League title, they were still the best team. They won more games than Arsenal, just that they drew some games more than Arsenal, which was why they were second. They scored more goals, considered lesser goals. Now, with a game in hand, they are above us now. So, Manchester City with Haaland have been better. I mean, when was the last time, aside from the year they swept all the domestic cups in England, when was the last time they were gunning for the treble, Champions League, FA Cup, and the Premier League? And they are in pole position for 2 of the 3, because people would argue that against Real Madrid are always the favourite. They are the pole position for the FA Cup final, they are the pole position for the EPL. It's been a long time they have been in this position, and it's still down to the goal scorer in the team. So he has made them better. He has given them another opportunity to make everybody stop and watch and salute what Guardiola is doing if they eventually win the treble. And if he doesn't do it, then you can now criticize. But for now, he's on course for celebration.
All right. In the build-up to this game, former Real Madrid coach Rafa Benitez was speaking in Spanish media. I was talking about some of the ways in which he thinks that Real Madrid maybe have an advantage over Manchester City, and one of the things he mentioned was counter-attacks. He thinks that on the counter, that Real Madrid have the ability to have that extra player in space. Maybe Luka Modric, maybe Benzema dropping in, and of course with the burst of pace of Vinicius on the left. Who knows who's going to be on the right? Maybe Rodrigo, maybe Federico Valverde. But do you agree with this? I think that in the last couple of seasons, especially with the new system Pep has been playing after the World Cup, they've been less and less susceptible to counter-attacks. Do you think that this could still be an area where maybe they could be susceptible, and maybe it could be an area where Real Madrid could hurt Manchester City today?
I think the players Manchester City lost made them kind of better. Starting with Zinchenko to Arsenal and João Cancelo to Bayern Munich. It gave them a different approach to the left side of defense. So Guardiola plays more with 3-man defense. Nathan Ake is obviously the man at the left side of the defense. Or if he wants to play a 4-man defense, he plays a left-footed centre-back in the 6th position and a left back. So the exit of some players that usually gives Guardiola the rest of mind that after all I have a player that can do it, and he may not do it, have now made them focus on an aspect of the team that they needed to improve, which was the left side of defense. So now we are seeing the wonders Nathan Ake is doing. Now we are seeing the wonders that John Stone is doing in the DM position in relation to whoever plays behind him. So holistically, statistically, Manchester City have been better this season, and it has been down to some changes in personnel, especially incoming, talking about Erling Haaland. And I think when it comes to counter-attack, Man City would what's that word? They would have an edge in terms of counter-attack. Yes, they have Vinicius. Real Madrid have Vinicius Junior. We don't know who will start with Rodrigo or Benzema, but we already know what Man City have. We see what Mahrez can do. We see what Bernardo Silva can do when he replaces Mahrez on the right. Foden, Grealish, Gundogan from the middle of the park. I mean, if it comes to counter-attack, I see Man City with the advantage, not even with Madrid.
All right, yeah. I with regards to that, one of the things that I think that people have mentioned with City this season is their newfound ability to even concede possession. That's something that you would normally not attach to a Pep Guardiola side. But I think the game at the Emirates against Arsenal in the Premier League was one game where I think that's City's worst possession since Pep became manager. I think it was about 27% or thereabout, but they still won the game by 3-1. Manchester City. So, I mean, they could as well concede possession. They could play on the counter. But something else that Rafa Benitez mentioned that I want to pick your mind on is about physicality. Benitez thinks that Real Madrid are a more physical side than Man City. I don't agree because we can begin to mention the players that could possibly play for both sides tonight. Yeah. And I think that City have the edge physically. But Benitez thinks that Real Madrid do. Do you agree? Should we begin to pick out players?
Yes, we can pick out players. But before we pick out players, I think to 50% agree with Benitez. I think it depends on the formation Real Madrid start with. If Camavinga starts at the left,
regardless of the formation of the player, I still think City are more physical side.
I think the formation has it depends on the body. So if it is 4-3-3 and Camavinga stands in the middle of the park, we know that it is down to probably Alaba and Rudiger or whoever stays there. Then it is Camavinga, Tchouaméni, and the three people in the middle. But if Camavinga starts at left back, more bodies are in the middle of the park, and Camavinga can give you two player profiles as a left back and as an inverted left back who also comes to join whoever is in the DM. So I think formation is what makes Real Madrid.
Yeah, but with regards to physicality, Camavinga is not one that. I mean, you look at the Real Madrid, you look at Man City, for instance, right? They have big boys at the back. Akanji most likely plays. John Stones, Ruben Diaz, obviously. Most likely Kyle Walker, I would expect, because of the pace of Vinicius. Those are four big boys at the back. There's Rodri in midfield. There's Erling Haaland in front. But you go to Real. I beg your pardon. You go to Real, and I mean you go to Real Madrid. They are the same. There's no Eder Militao. I think Militao is probably the biggest player in Real Madrid. He misses this game due to suspension. Rudiger maybe comes in. In terms of physicality, I think Rudiger brings some sort of that. But in midfield, whether Camavinga plays there or not, I don't think they have that physicality with Toni Kroos, with Luka Modric, not with Vinicius, not with Rodrigo, definitely not with Carvajal or Camavinga at left back. So for me, and of course we know that Benzema on set pieces, which is the third thing that I wanted to bring up with you, that Benitez said that maybe Real Madrid will have an advantage on set pieces. On set pieces, Benzema never scores a header on set pieces, as prolific as he is. So for me, I still think that in terms of physicality and set pieces, that Man City do have an edge over Real Madrid.
So again, it descends on the formation. Remember that one of the goals Real Madrid scored, was it against Chelsea, who had strong defenders that year, was a ball over the top that beat the high line. And we know Man City, if they are holding possession, they keep a high line. Real Madrid know they've perfected, they've mastered the art of long balls. Rudiger did that in Chelsea. He's still doing that for Real Madrid. Alaba is one with the eye to passes. The guy on the right, Carvajal, is also one who can push attack. They know when to throw in those long balls and they know when to beat the high pass. So when you talk about set pieces may not be to meet Benzema on the edge. It may just to meet him when he has run past probably an Akanji or it's John Stones or whoever is holding that high line for Man City, and he beats them. We know Vinicius Junior on his pace. If Rodrigo starts, we know what he can bring for Valverde. So it depends on the formation again. Set piece may mean a cross and nod, but for Real Madrid, set piece may mean that long through ball beating the high press, and they've done it severally.
All right. I think set pieces are set pieces, corner kicks, free kicks, but again, for me, I just feel like, in the physical aspect, maybe City do have a slight edge against Real, but we'll see how it pans out. Another thing that Bernardo Silva was saying yesterday was about the fact that, look, we're not here to play against pedigree. The pedigree in Real is about the players. He mentioned names, Luka Modric, Toni Kroos, Karim Benzema, that if they didn't have this quality of players and they just gave the white shirt to players who weren't good enough, then we'll not be talking about pedigree. So he's saying, look, we're here to play Real Madrid and a bunch of fantastic players. But how important is that psychological aspect to it? A lot of people attach this to Real to say, look, playing against Real in the Champions League is a different ball game. But Bernardo says, look, they're a good team. We play against good teams every day. We respect them, but we're going to go there and try to play a game.
So Man City also, they may want to play the mind game or try to look as if Real Madrid are the only ones with stars. But this season, for example, Man City are going into that game with the highest goal scorer in Europe's top 5 league, Haaland. They are going into that game with the best playmaker in English football. I really don't have the stats for the top 5 leagues now, but I know Kevin De Bruyne is.
I think he's the best playmaker. I think he's the best playmaker in the world.
Exactly. So they also have stars. Bernardo Silva, Mahrez, who is one of the players who will be gunning for CAF nominations this year, towards the tail end of this year. Um, they have players, they have stars that they can look to, and they have the coach. Some will say he's the marquee coach. They have Pep Guardiola, who stands throughout the game, even if they are leading 7-0. So I don't think Man City should be going into this game with humility, thinking that Real Madrid have all the stars. Man City also have all the stars. So it's the game of the Galacticos.
Yeah, but beyond the stars, there's this mental block that people say, look, when you play against Real, because of the sheer amount of success that they've had in this competition, that aura of, look, you're playing against Real Madrid, that it makes it more difficult to play against them. That's what I'm saying. That's what Bernardo was speaking to. That, look, we know we are going to play against a good team, but there's nothing more than that. It's a good team, but there's nothing more psychological than it. So I'm saying, do you think that plays into minds of players at this level, that, well, we're playing against a team that the most successful team in Europe?
Even when they lost last season, they scored how many goals? Over 5 or 6. They scored enough goals against Real Madrid. We were thinking it was going to be a tightly contested match against Bayern Munich. They scored goals against Bayern Munich. They've scored goals against Arsenal. They've scored goals against their Manchester neighbors or rivals, 6-3. In fact, 2 players had a hat-trick on that day. These people know how to score goals even in tough situations. So I don't think Real Madrid will be a different thing. I understand the sentiment of fans about prestige, about heritage, especially sentiment of some Manchester City fans. But I think they have more than what it takes to oppose Real Madrid.
For City today, do you think Gundogan should start in midfield, or should it be Bernardo Silva in midfield, Mahrez in front, or Bernardo Silva in front, Gundogan in midfield? What do you think works for them today?
I think Bernardo Silva should start up front beside Haaland and Grealish. And I think Gundogan should take his place in the middle of the park beside Kevin De Bruyne and Rodri. The reason I'm saying that is it's a two-legged affair. It's a two-legged affair. It's not a one-time Premier League affair or looking for 3 points. So you need to test all the arsenal you have. And Man City have that depth. They have a number of players. If you start Mahrez on time, you are already showing your hand. Everybody knows Mahrez starts as your winger. But if you start Bernardo Silva, there is that dynamics it brings to the team and to the game. And it may work for Man City. I'm just saying. So I think they should just start something unorthodox.